Hello, gentlemen and ladies and everybody and anybody. Welcome to Speed Gaming 2, where we are bringing you Week 2 of the Link to the Past Randomizer League Season 3, bringing you this match between Team Major Mistakes and the Spoilers. So calling this match tonight, I am Reg. I am joined by Esmar. So Esmar, what are we...
Hello. Sorry, you were saying?
What are we going to be seeing from these guys tonight?
Well, I can't profess to be too intimately familiar with either of these runners personally, but in Rando, a lot of the times it's more about the seed than it is about, your strategy. You might see some differences in the opening moments and minutes of the match, but this is going to be a standard open seed, so you start in the post-escape sequence, and we have to clear 7 dungeons and defeat Ganon after climbing Aghanim's tower. So this is basically as bog standard as it ever gets here. So the two sort of schools of thought are basically whether or not you sort of start Uncle or if you start in Sanctuary and go to CAC right away. And we're going to be seeing both of them starting in the Sanctuary here.
Both of them getting that red cane right out of it, too. That's an item you always love to see early. It doesn't open anything up immediately, but it's always just nice to have in your pocket.
Yeah, the one caveat I would add to that is you sometimes like to see it show up a little bit later so that you're not tempted into a Turtle Rock dive, because that can sort of be a deciding factor over whether or not you jump into an available Turtle Rock or not.
Yeah, Turtle Rock, Misery Mire, it can even play a pretty big role in whether or not runners will go into Ice Palace. But all of those are significant ways off at this point.
Yeah, we're seeing a slight divergence here. Teto is going to check the Lumberjack, just a piece of heart, while Zelga gets a head start on the Lost Woods checks.
Yeah, detouring a bit for that bush crab, but it's not dropping anything of value here. Those pickles are actually dropping bombs. Teto's farming those up a little bit. He's also going to get a higher tier of the tree pull. I believe he has killed 4 things at this point. But taking that hit means it'll be tier 2 instead of tier 3. But in Rando, that doesn't matter that much at this stage. Yeah,
getting those early bombs is really nice, especially in an open seed, especially if you don't go the Uncle route. So we see Team Major Mistakes here with a slight bomb advantage, though the spoilers here have all the bombs they really need here in CAC.
Yeah, you need 1 here for Blind's Hideout, 1 for the well, a 3rd for the Chicken Hut, and then potentially a 4th for the race game.
Yeah, but usually by the time you get through Blind's Hut and the well, you've either got enough money to buy some if you really need to, or you've gotten one of the 3 bomb packs.
Yeah, rare is a seed where neither of those comes true, especially with the 30 rupees back here in the back of Blind's Hideout.
And hey, even rarer, do you actually need to bomb race game?
Yeah, because you can check that one first, so you can save the bomb there, or if it turns out you need it, then it feels a little bad. Regardless, we're seeing the dense CAC checks here. Nothing in the first 6.
Yeah, of note is that 300 rupee that gets us a little bit closer to Zora. Potentially close enough that with enough rupee pulls, we can get to Zora money without even having to do, say, a Houlihan or something like that. And the hammer. That's nice to see.
Hammer is great. It's another one of those. It actually doesn't open anything up on its own, aside from virtue of being a weapon. That bottle is probably actually the more interesting find in the immediate term, because Zelga's going to go to the Chicken Hut here, then he can check the sick kid right next door.
Yeah, that's always nice to find before you're finished with Kakariko. It's a little bit less likely. You like to see the flute, too, so you can activate it right away. Hookshot's not bad. The bottle's a little more likely than the flute, obviously, by virtue of there being 4 times as many of them.
Yep. And then here is the bomb purchase that you mentioned. Teto's actually got 3 bombs. Could see him skip buying, especially with the hammer and soon the hook shot in his hand.
Yeah, I would, at this point, I wouldn't. It's nice to have those bombs, but if you know you're probably not going to need them, chances are you're going to run into bombs before you need them a second time.
Right. Although, here's a question. If we find a power glove in these remaining 2 checks, this back of the tavern in the race game, do you go to Kakariko before, or not Kakariko, Death Mountain?
Well, I wouldn't personally. I'd clear out the South Shore first. Just for the information, because if you find Bow, then of course you want to go over to Eastern area rather. If you find Lamp, that's a big nod towards Death Mountain. I'd sort of hold off until at least Mini Moldorm. Depending on what I find, I might skip Ice Rod Cave, but that's kind of a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah. We did pull the Pegasus boots out of the back of the tavern there while we were talking about that, and that's one of those things. Skipping Ice Rod Cave is a lot less appealing with those in hand just because it's a lot less of a jog when you can go fast. Of course, there's always the flute to make that even better if you can flute to 8, but...
Yeah, that can end up being a little bit of a gamble that can bite you if you decide, I'll wait for Ice Rod Cave. Later I'll have the flute. I can check it if I need to, but otherwise I won't bother. And then you end up, an hour 50 in and you pull the flute there and kicking yourself.
Yeah. Although we do have some divergence here now. Zelga showed off some nice hookshot block clipping in the dam, and he's going over to Mini Moldrum Cave. Teto's actually checking the castle area, starting with the uncle. Nothing there, but fair few checks in the region.
Starting with the uncle tells me that the plan is probably to go and do escape here. It's a little bit longer for less dense checks, but it's something that it's open right away. And if you have to come back here later, the choice can become harder and harder the more stuff you find elsewhere.
Yeah,
and there could be, something sneaky like, a medallion where the Quake medallion showed up for Zelga. But say the Moon Pearls in Zelda's cell. That's something that you could put off finding for a little bit too long if you put off this escape sequence.
Yeah, we did actually see, though, we saw a mushroom in the uncle chest.
Yeah, that's actually not too bad for a full escape clear. Oh, the glove.
Yeah.
That's a very nice find.
So Zelga's going to have to come down here at some point, and meanwhile, he's found really nothing of value on the South Shore besides that Quake medallion and potentially that fetch quest shovel. While Teto's actually got 2 fetch quests of his own, because he can turn that mushroom in for fake powder in addition to its intended use. And then he's got those gloves that take him up the mountain like we were discussing earlier. Could take him to the Dark World if he finds the Moon Pearl.
Yeah, so we're seeing Zelga set up for the fake flippers. This is a good call with the Pegasus boots in his inventory. With these checks, though, they're out of logic right now. And that says to me that Teto is making the sort of more lucrative call right now, getting those gloves.
Yeah, finding that magic powder there does indicate that we're not going to find the flippers behind it. And Zelga cannot afford Zora, so he's just spying that ledge, and he is actually going to dash back to the whirlpool, keep his water walk, and use that to check the hobo location.
Yeah, that hobo is really nice to do with the water walk if you've set it up. An interesting note about that water walk is it doesn't... If you do have the flippers, I believe it cancels it on the light water. Whereas if you don't have the flippers, it's all treated the same.
Yes. Then it's also, if he had pulled a full heart container or a piece of heart that had given him a completed container out of the waterfall cave, then he would have lost his water walk state.
Okay, so I wasn't paying super close attention to the second 2 chests. I would imagine that the map did show up in the front.
The map was in the cell, yeah. And then key, and I believe it was 2 pieces of heart in the other 2. Now, navigating this dark room with no fire, no sword, can be a little bit of a pain, but hookshot generally makes it pretty doable. Especially with the boots, there's actually a setup in the room with the chest, where if you bonk off the torch, you are reasonably well lined up with the chest, which can make that a lot easier to find.
Now we see Zelga going up here to check the lumberjack cave here. This is an interesting note here. The reason that this is happening at this point rather than at the beginning is some runners will decide to prioritize checking it once the boots show up, because it's not accessible without the boots in any case. So until they show up, it's kind of doesn't really matter what's back there.
Yep. If the boots are in Ganon's tower, then you are just completely wasting your time by checking the lumberjack. And it's not it's not trivial, especially in the super early game. Like, we saw Teto come out of Kakariko after Zelga when they both started Sanctuary and went straight there. And that time difference was him checking the lumberjack.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of interesting, seeing Teto going up the mountain, completely not interested in those South Shore checks, which is usually a fairly dense area of checks to be picking up. But that mountain right now is looking really juicy. It's all out of logic, but you don't really care that much when you can get all the way over to Paradox Cave and check all 7 of those chests.
Yep, Paradox Cave can actually clear Tower of Hera, although it may or may not be glitchless doable. You may have to do Herapod if the big key is fire locked. Hey, that
is a nice find.
Yeah, would have been nice to have in the dark room, but Teto still got through it, no problem at all.
And again, making up a little bit of time by putting off the South Shore checks. Nothing really super helpful to have showed up there, so Teto's not losing very much time at all here by doing those later. And the mitts! Wow. This is turning into a god route for Teto here.
Yeah, although it does pull into question for me what the logic here is. Because the only early game area we haven't seen yet is the Sahasrara and Eastern Palace area, which, granted, pendant Eastern, if you're not committing to that immediately, you generally want to avoid it. But what's your logical access to the mountain? What's guarding those mitts? Is it the flute or is it the lamp?
Yeah, I mean, I know that I have made an out-of-logic mountain climb, assuming that, I was leaving the lamp somewhere in Escape, and then I end up finding the lamp on the mountain. So that told me immediately that, oh, well, that means the flute's hanging out somewhere, on the overworld that I didn't pick up. So that can actually be useful information if we see the flute show up on the mountain here.
Yep, and that's one of the big things you always want to keep in mind when you're breaking logical sequence like this. What did you find? What guards it? Narrow things down.
And when are you going to get back in? Especially when it's something like this where you're breaking logic with the lamp specifically, because that's an item that a lot of high-level runners often do not care about not having. It's nice to see, but you don't go out of your way to look for it, because it's just kind of wasted time if you can do all of the rooms without it.
Right.
So you may never find out when you're back in logic. But again, if the logical access for these items is supposed to be the flute, that is often an item you do need to find. So it's kind of something you really have to keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah, because in addition to just being a major convenience, the flute does hard block the Misery Mire area. Also, I do want to give big props to Teto for remembering there was that store inside the Paradox Cave. He only had one bomb.
I was going to point that out. Yeah, knowing that bombs or the Cane of Samaria is the only way to flip that switch. And not enough magic to use the cane right now, so nice presence of mind to pick up those bombs before going into that room.
Right, especially with that being such a rarely seen shop. And hey, everybody's favorite 10 bomb pack just chilling there on the floating island. I don't think we're picking that one up today.
Many explosions, sleeps again.
Yeah. So anyways, Tower of Hera here. I mentioned this before, but with no fire source, well, doesn't matter because we've got... Well, doesn't matter for beating Molnorm. Yes, right. Absolutely.
Yeah, with the boots and the hook shot, obviously we can set up for the beloved Hera pot, which turns this from a tower climb to 3 screen transitions in a boss fight.
Yeah, add in a couple extra when you got to drop down to get the items, but we're not seeing it today from Teto. We'll see if Zelga goes for it, because with the big key and 1 item in hand, there's minimal reason not to do it. Although Teto took a few hits from those flames there, wanted the health refill of the death.
Yeah, now I saw chat mentioning that Zora is still completely in logic, and that really favors Teto here, because that check is not sort of... Since he didn't do the fake flippers checks and all of that South Shore stuff, that's still something that Teto could conveniently go back to, whereas Zelga has to weigh it against the fact that, okay, well, I've already spent the time to go there once. How worth it is it to go back for that 1 check? So that's another bonus of putting off that South Shore, because it sort of helps route some of those often orphan checks really nicely into a nice little package.
Yeah. The big equalizer there, though, could be if the magic mirror shows up. Because if that shows up, Zelga probably going to be more inclined to check Catfish in the Dark World, and he can just mirror right over to Zora from there.
Yeah, so what are we looking at? We've only seen 2 crystal dungeons so far. So right now what we're looking for, knowing that we need either the book or the mirror. And, well, it looks like nothing really for Tower of Hera, as Teto finishes that up right now.
Is leaving an item in the basement, though. Has to leave that, no choice.
Yeah, if Lamp is our logical mountain access, that could end up being a factor in whether or not they decide to go back and check that. With Flute as logical mountain access, you don't necessarily believe as hard that that's going to be a required item, but if Lamp was the intended, in I guess air quotes there, intended mountain access, then it's very possible that that fire-locked item in the basement is going to be... It could very well be progression.
Yeah. I hate to say it, though. I don't think either runner goes back, especially with Zelga here in the tower himself now. I don't think either runner goes back to that basement until they've exhausted everything else.
Yeah, I would say oh, the mirror is nice. That puts us Flute away from Mire and Desert Palace access. Desert Palace, again, can't be completed without fire, but...
Mire has a couple of fire-locked locations, but could possibly be cleared without fire if we're just talking about the boss. Of course, that assumes Quake Medallion gets us in there.
And Moon Pearl.
Oh, yes, Pearl, too.
The ever elusive Moon Pearl, showing up a little bit late this seed. Zelga's going to be making up some time now here, as Teto does those South Shore checks, which Zelga did a little bit earlier.
Well, I do want to say, I think just that mirror alone in Spiral Cave, I think that makes the mountain sequence break worth it.
Oh, for sure.
Just for the extra fish. Like, I'm assuming at this point, based on the fact that we haven't seen a Moon Pearl and it wasn't on the mountain, that we will see the Moon Pearl in one of those orphan locations, Eastern Palace area, Gina, Zora, and so on.
Yeah, if the logic has you clearing Light World dungeons, or Dark World, Overworld dungeons before you logically have to go to the mountain, you're really happy to see that mirror, because that makes Palace of Darkness a lot a lot easier to explore. It's just really helpful in general. Skull Woods is another place that really helps out.
And it just makes all of the routing throughout the Dark Overworld so much more efficient. It's like you can go check Bumper Ledge and you can route Graveyard Ledge in with that if you're so inclined. When you're doing the South route, it makes for a really easy Smith Chain plus Purple Chest. And you can get like the Grove Cave and so on all right there on your first shot. You're not forced to leave those locations behind.
Yeah, sometimes that can be nice in certain situations where you're kind of start hunting for your next progression, but you certainly don't complain about seeing that mirror early, as Zelga picks it up right there. So actually not a huge amount of difference in terms of, you know, where the runners are and what they've checked right now.
Yeah, I think it's basically at this point, Zelga is just the water checks ahead.
Yeah, Zelga going to check the shovel here. That was picked up in Mini Moldorm Cave. Ooh, the swag dig there.
Yep. None of those digs are quote-unquote real digs. They'll never dig up anything, but looks cool. Don't do it in the digging game. It'll screw you up.
I do think Zelga did get the mitts. I did see Zelga jump down for that Spec Rock Cave there. Ooh, nice setting up for that fake flipper there. I haven't seen that setup before.
Yeah, normally you'll want to do that one with a bomb to knock yourself to the edge of the screen, but the bonk works just as well. You don't have to wait for the bomb to explode. You don't take damage. It's pretty nice.
Especially for turning in that mushroom check there. Ooh, there's our logical first sword on Zora. We got our first sword from the old man, but that was an out of logic check, so Zora was intended to be our first sword. So
Okay.
Nice pickup for Teto there.
Yeah, so some highly respected gentleman in chat earlier was saying that he thought it would be hilarious if this seed turned out to be an AGA 1 requirement. Yeah, if we see the lamp, I'm pretty sure that's where this seed is headed.
Yeah, the only thing that could save that at this point, which would be the Moon Pearl. If the Moon Pearl doesn't show up, then we're looking at finding that lamp and finding it on the pyramid.
Hold up. Okay, so that lamp is behind Death Mountain because, well, does it have? No, if the pearl is there, well, no, the mirror was on the mountain. The mitts were on the mountain. So yeah, that lamp is behind Death Mountain. I'm not going to say we missed the flute somewhere, but that's how we're supposed to get to the mountain. Although that said, that lamp is still a fairly nice find for Teto.
Yeah, and interesting that we just had mentioned that lamp showing up, indicating an AGA seed. That's the one place it could be where that's not what it means. Since that lamp is not available before the flute. If we find the flute here, then for sure it is. If we find the Moon Pearl on, well, let's see. If we find the flute, we can't find the flute in Vanilla Big Key Chest of Eastern, for example.
Right. It could be here in this chest that Zelga is about to check, though.
The flute shows up, then that lamp is back in logic. But until that lamp goes back in logic, we're not looking AGA just yet.
Also, I just want to say I am slightly... I'm not going to say annoyed, but Zelga took the intended way around to that chest. He has the hook shot. He could have just hook shot across that gap, and I'm fairly sure he knows that. But Zelga is a very experienced player, been around for a long time, so when you see things like that from him, I don't know. It happens. He's probably thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead of you, trying to figure out what his logic is.
Yeah, that's one of those things that can happen, is you just autopilot when you're trying to plan out the rest of your seed. Ah, there we go. There's that Moon Pearl. And as we
Okay.
mentioned before, he's going to that back chest, but it can't be the flute. We know that.
Correct. However, this does mean the flute can be any number of places in the Dark World now. Not ones that are mirror locked, and not ones that are midst locked, but that still leaves a significant number of locations, like the entirety of Thieves Town, for example.
But that does confirm that Aga is only dying once this seed.
Right. No need to go kill the one in his own tower. And there's the hook shot across the gap that I was mentioning earlier. So we do see both a map and a compass in Eastern Palace. That does mean that Armos Knights is holding an item and a green pendant that can be turned in. I don't think either of these runners would really want to go all the way back for that. But if a bow shows up and they are desperate for progression, we might see that later.
Yeah, you could play it a little dangerously and skip that vanilla big key chest. I've gotten bitten by plays like that before. For example, in Skull Woods, you find one item, it's the mitts you've been looking for, and then you go back and end up last locationing the flute there.
Yeah. You hate
like, oh, what are the chances that both of these chests are going to be super important items? Well, when it happens, you don't want to be stuck holding the wrong end of the stick. Zelga heading into the Dark World, doing Hype Cave first, which is a very nice route to take when you have the mitts already.
Right, because you can just go, instead of the general northwest to south loop, you can go south up to northwest here like he's doing. And we did see a Dark World map check from him. We saw Dungeons 2 and 3, Swamp Palace and Skull Woods, holding the remaining pendants. And then everything else is just blue crystals. Although actually there is one disadvantage to this route that Zelga's doing that I would like to... You can't easily do the purple chest.
If the flute shows up, though, then you can just mirror and flute it, since you don't have anything to check along the way. You don't get that much advantage by walking there in the Dark World, so you may as well just, flute to 2 and then turn it in. So that's a sort of advantage that it can give you.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It is a minor loss of efficiency, but both runners are doing it anyways, so there's no real gain or loss.
Yeah, and that's race. Also assuming that, purple chest is important, which you kind of low-key always hope it's not going to be.
No, but you always do it anyways, because when it does turn out to be important, it really bites you.
Yeah, when you get the mitts this early, you certainly would like to get that check done.
Yeah, Zelga is grabbing the frog here. So we'll see that from him. We'll see the hammer pegs. We'll see actually the powder as well, because he's got that. Powder is actually still not in logic. That is behind the flippers, which we've also not yet seen.
And the flippers could be in GT.
No, Ice Palace is a crystal.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We could get to GT without finding the flippers, but the flippers.
So that does mean, though, that we have, I think, all of the items other than the bow and the fire rod. But Swamp Palace has a lot of sort of required items for access, and we have all of those except for the flippers.
Yep. So honestly, we've kind of just got a lot of items in general. Like for actual just go mode, we're missing a bow, we're missing 2 rods, and we are maybe missing a medallion or 2. That's actually not very much for less than 30 minutes.
Yeah,
we're missing the flute too.
Access items. We're missing the world access items. Other than that flute, which is it's locking in dungeon and 3 overworld checks. But having the mitts and the hammer and the moon pearl and all that stuff this early on in the seed, I mean, it's not super mega early. It's we're half an hour in, but that can be a little bit of a. Sometimes you can get overwhelmed with your options, and it can become a little bit harder to route efficiently. We're seeing both of these runners take basically the same route, though, because they most certainly know exactly what their plan is going to be here.
Yeah, and they are largely just playing the efficiency game here. Zelga actually not going into Thieves Town. He is opening it up, but he's at least going to get these overworld checks in before going for it.
Yeah, again, with the items that both of these runners have, you can get so many areas in the world, but the items you're looking for are the items you need to clear dungeons for the most part. So you just want to do as many checks as you can, and try to find some of those items that hopefully will tell you, okay, where is it that we're going to be going next? Like, if they find the fire rod, then okay, we go into Skull Woods and then maybe Ice Palace. Fake Flipper over there.
Yep. And at the same time, if you do come across a dungeon that you can fully complete, like how they were at Tower of Hera earlier, they're at Thieves Town now, you definitely fit that in as efficiently as you can with your route.
Yeah, which is why we're seeing such an intensive clear of Village of Outcasts before Thieves Town here, because you don't want to leave the fire rod before you sort of make your leave from this area. If you could dip into Skull Woods and clear that up right away.
Although that said, with the hammer, the boots, and a sword in hand, there's really not much Zelga could have found in the village itself that would have improved his Thieves Town clear.
Yeah, not Thieves Town. Thieves Town is, from a numerical standpoint, kind of the lowest barrier to entry for any dungeon, really. You just need to be able to get to the front door and you can clear the dungeon.
Yeah, you need a weapon, which
yeah, one of like, it's probably the most forgiving restriction of any dungeon's clear restriction. It's like one of maybe 5 items, 5 potential checks. Like one of 4 sword, Burna works, Samaria works, the hammer works.
Yeah,
I think that's about it.
It's a lot more of something that will trip you up if you play inverted randomizer, because when you're playing traditional like open standard mode like this, the odds that you'll get your Dark World access as Mitts plus Pearl with none of those other items before you go to the Dark World is pretty low. So you'll almost always have something. Although chat is mentioning, yeah, the hammer specifically is nice because there's pretty decent odds that there's an item in the big chest of this dungeon, and that does hard require hammer. So if you leave that behind, it sort of sucks. Zelga not taking damage from the enemies.
Yeah,
in that
I was I was a little scared for him there for a second.
Yeah, that was
spooky as Halloween approaches. Just getting in the mood.
He does pull the small key, which means it's not in the big chest, which means that he can go get whatever item is in here. I think we've seen both the map and compass already in the front 4. Or I think the map was in the front and the compass was in the attic.
Yeah, well, good thing we didn't leave those 5 rupees in there.
Yeah, clearly making the run right there.
I mean, we can't just let the thieves keep it. It was probably stolen, so, we'd better steal it back and then spend it on, blue goo or something.
Yeah, the more important thing, though, at this point is that in addition to that crystal, Blind will be dropping an item as well. So let's see how cleanly Zelga gets it. Looking real clean through 2 phases. And lets that spin attack off, which loses a little bit, but that was still a very clean fight. And while Zelga's grabbing his crystal, actually, I mentioned earlier that there was nothing Zelga could have really found in the village that would make his Thieves Town better. It was the same thing for Teto. Teto did actually not do the chess game before dipping into the dungeon, so he's actually on the same Master Sword that Zelga has. He hasn't picked up his Tempered yet. He'll get that after the dungeon, though, and then presumably take it to the front of Skull Woods or somewhere.
Yeah, so at this point, I would expect... Okay, we're seeing Zelga go over here for, I believe, purple chest.
Yep, and he's just going to save and quit here because that's a lot faster than mirroring and running with it. Or
Yeah,
running with it than mirroring.
the other option here would be to go north, dip Skull Woods into that north loop of the Dark World. The downside of that is, again, as we were mentioning earlier, orphaning that purple chest and making it really inconvenient to come back to that check.
Yeah, and then he'll route this in, I believe, with... We haven't seen a Genis Cave yet. I think he'll route this in with that as well. And
yeah, maybe peek at Desert Ledge. Since the flute hasn't shown up, at this point, you're just like, okay, you know, you're not going to wait anymore for that to pop over to Desert Area. You're going to see what we've got over here. Because if you see an important item on Desert Ledge, you know, if you see, say, at this point, like, say, bow, we're going to need the bow for pod, as well as the GT climb. So, you know, you're going to... we're not seeing Desert Ledge check, though. So the information at this point, again, isn't as important as it would be for a world access item like gloves, for example.
yeah, because
the most telling thing we could see would be flute. Flute on Desert Ledge would be a big tell that we're going to find the book somewhere.
But honestly, finding the book in that somewhere, I think in this state of the race, would be a pretty big tell for Desert Palace.
Yeah. Again, when you start finding those really niche items after having found both gloves so early, you know, everything but the flute. Again, this mountain play that Zelga's making is still not in logic because we haven't seen the flute. So, not entirely sure where the flute is. Chances are decent that it could be, say, somewhere in pod.
I'm eyeing Skullwoods for it right now, even without the fire rod. But yeah, pod's another good location that it could possibly be. And then you've got like Pyramid and Catfish as well. Okay, so we do need a Bombos medallion to clear this seed. So that's something, I guess.
Yeah, Bombos would, I guess, again, with the flippers, would put Ice Palace in logic. Since we don't have the fire rod.
This is very aggressive.
And there's Bombos, right there in Super Bunny.
Yeah, that's good for Zelga, except for the fact that he has no rods. Teto getting a bow after some of the most aggressive Skull Woods key placement I've ever seen. That's 3 keys and an item in the front. And I think that's going to send him right off in the Palace of Darkness direction.
I'm never sure if it's confirmation bias or not, but it seems like... You know, you've got, say, Misery Mire and Skull Woods. Those are the 2 Dark World dungeons. Fire Rod, I think, in Hookshot Cave. Wow.
Yep.
Anyway, what I was saying is, it always seems that there's more often a really important item in Skull Woods than in Mire. I mean, obviously, Mire has a lot more barrier to entry, but Skull Woods just seems to hide an important item more often than it deserves to.
I believe the proper name for that dungeon is Value Woods. That's more of a V27-28 thing, but it still seems to hold a surprisingly large amount of time.
Yeah, so this Dark Death Mountain play, though, for Zelga is really sort of paying off well. Picking up that Fire Rod. Again, out of logic, but when you can clear Skull Woods, you don't care. So that's gonna bring him right to that bow that Teto found. So that aggressive Skull Woods play isn't going to be buying that much time here. It's kind of unfortunate because otherwise it would be a really good find, except for that Fire Rod showing up on the mountain for Zelga.
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate for Teto because it also gives Zelga the information that flute that we're looking for, not in the back of Skullwoods, although it could still be in the front, except for the fact that we've seen it. Also, 100% not in Ice Palace, so that's a dungeon he can largely scratch off his list. We still
Yeah,
got
since both the Fire Rod and Bombos were up on the mountain.
Yeah. But there's still that Ice Rod. Gonna have to find that somewhere before we can clear this game. Now, the Teto is letting that bow pull him directly to Palace of Darkness, as we thought about earlier. And we'll see if he mirrors over, cleans up Eastern Palace before or after. Oh, did he not have enough money? I didn't even notice his rupee count.
Probably, yeah, he didn't because he spent it all on his sword.
That feels really bad. Like, ouch.
Yeah, that hurts.
Has he checked this? Do we know what the stun prize is? Has that been checked?
I don't know if it's been checked. I certainly don't know what it is.
Yeah, he's choosing to farm the 50 rupees under the rock here at any rate.
So Zelga is meanwhile, about to find his lamp here.
Yeah, and actually that's going to confirm for him the flute stuff. He could not have been confident in that before, just because it could have been flute or lamp as his mountain access. But yeah, now he knows.
And again, at this point, he's had a lot of those items for long enough that the worry is, are you thinking about that? Nice kern jump there from Zelga too, timing that bomb precisely with that.
That
to
was
get the
that
screen
was well
transition.
done. Like that trick.
But as I was saying,
sorry, go on.
As I was saying, you have to make sure you're keeping those pieces straight in your head. So I found the lamp in King's Tomb. What does that mean for my mountain access? Because you could by this point have forgotten some of those important details.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We are going to see Zelga here. He's got that mirror equipped, so he's going to get his tempered sword from King Zora, although he's not getting those arrows from Catfish. I do want to say the kern jump is a trick. It's a fairly precise lineup, but it's one of those things you practice it, and once you've got it in your back pocket, you will love having that trick forever.
Yeah, the hook shot takes you from right to left, but not left to right.
Yeah, Zelga cannot swim.
Kind of ironic to have forgotten that, given that we just saw the kern jump, which is something you only need to do if you cannot swim.
Now, are we actually going to see Zelga head to Skull Woods now? Because we were talking about earlier how that Fire Rod was going to push him in that direction. And he did the North Dark World, but he didn't actually go to that pendant dungeon.
Yeah. It's a little bit... Yeah, I'm not sure what we are seeing here right now.
Could be Bolus Pod from him. Or it could be just Pyramid and then Pod or something. I would expect he's going to go east here.
Yeah, it's a little strange to me to not see that Skull Woods play. However, it is a pendant dungeon, so that does factor into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would be.
You're not gonna be as inexorably drawn to a pendant dungeon just by finding the item you need to clear it, which is a little unfortunate since the bow's in there. A bow.
Yeah, there is a second bow hanging around somewhere. It could be in Pod itself here. I don't think Zelga ever did Dark Cross earlier, did he? No, he's headed right for it.
Yeah, and this is one of the drawbacks of not doing that dark cross earlier. This is a little bit of extra time investment on top of what it would have cost to do it earlier.
Of course, since he's got a Dark World portal right there, he's going to just step right back into it, and then I would assume it's Pod.
Yeah, nice presence of mind to route that in right there. Since who knows when you're going to be going back for Dark Cross.
Yeah, and then something I haven't been counting closely on Teto's side is pod small keys. I think is this the
3 after left or after bow locked side.
yeah, and he did open the middle doors, and he's opened the vanilla big key door. So this is 5 small keys he's found. He's holding 3. He's used 2. So there's only 1 more to find in this dungeon.
Yeah, depending on again if that shows up in the dark basement, then that means there's an item in the Harmless Hellway. If one does not show up, then Harmless Hellway has a small key.
And have we? I feel like we've seen the map. I think that was on the right side, but I'm actually. I don't know. I feel like we have, but I'm not going to.
And there's that small key, so that means that we're probably going to see Teto pop down into Harmless Hellway right now.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll do it. Ooh.
There's the flute.
All right.
Now all of those items go right back into logic.
Yep.
Except for the magic powder. That one's still illegal.
Yeah, but that didn't block anything, so it doesn't matter much.
So this is a huge leg up for Teto. At least Zelga's going to get something out of this with that flute. But Teto can complete the dungeon and Zelga cannot. Which is going to be a pretty big difference. The flute allows you to get back here somewhat quickly. But with Pod... Oh, nice mimic clip there.
Yeah. Using that potion there unlocks the camera through some shenanigans that I don't actually know the technical details of very well. But the short version is if all the mimics are off the screen, then they're dead even if they're still alive when the door opens.
Yeah, given how tight this race has been, even though the double dip isn't it's not going to be a huge time loss. The margins seem to be pretty razor thin between these two runners as it is. So any advantage is going to make a difference come end game.
Yeah, so Teto being able to grab this advantage of being able to one-shot this dungeon here is a deceptively big deal.
And get the flute at the same time. That's something you love to see. You love to see an item direct you straight to another item like that.
And actually, that could drive Zelga even further away from the bow.
Yeah, so unless that other bow shows up somewhere that's not GT.
I think Zelga's probably going to be looking for it in the Misery Mire region next. He's got 2 medallions. He's got a Cane of Samaria. He's got fire. He's got mirror.
What? It was his Skullwood's big chest, right?
No, it was the pinball room.
Oh, okay. Seems it's always one of those two in my experience.
Yeah, Teto having a pretty solid Helmasaur fight there. He actually did not despawn the fireballs with the mask break because he was too quick to break the mask. If he'd waited about half a second there, those fireballs would have despawned. But still got it pretty quickly. Spin and 2 slashes with the Tempered Sword will do it.
Yeah, so that pendant Skull Woods is really the scary thing for Zelga right here. Just us knowing that bow is in there. Again, that other bow could show up. I've seen races where, you know, somebody avoids the bow the entire seed and then ends up picking it up on a green pendant turn in. But right now there's very, very little reason for Zelga to decide to dip Skull Woods until everything else starts running really dry.
Yeah. Although I think for him, after the Mire and Desert area, things are starting to get pretty dry. It's like he could fake Flipper Ice Palace.
Yeah,
But
if the flippers show up, then that's a little bit more bad news. Just because that opens up Logical Ice Palace as well as Swamp, which is a lot of checks. If Teto plays this right and the seed is nice enough, it could be the difference between a full clear swamp and a go mode swamp.
Well, hopefully we're just not going to see a swamp at all, just with it being a pendant and all, but...
You know, I'm not very good at paying attention to that. I think I've demonstrated this enough times, this seed.
Yeah, well, we did see the ledge item finally. It was just a baby shield. I think that's actually the second one of those we've seen and not picked
I
up.
believe so. The other one was on Spec Rock Ledge, I believe.
Yep. I did not see what that medallion was.
We never do. They always catch the one frame it's on screen.
Fetch Quest Book of Medora. You'd love to see it, right?
Well,
right?
You know, when you've got the mirror already, it's not that bad. And again, that does mean that going up to Hera again for Hera Basement with that Fire Rod is going to be it's going to be worth 2 items now because you can wrap that Ether Tablet in, so that's something to keep in mind. You'd still have rather had that book be in GT or something, though.
Yeah. It's also worth noting we saw that Bombos was the Mire medallion on Teto's side. So that's actually, Zelga has that on account of his earlier Death Mountain trip. Teto does not. So Zelga will be able to full clear Mire after Desert if he wants. And I have a suspicion he will, since it's a crystal dungeon.
Yeah, at this point, you have everything you need to clear it. On Zelga's side, it would be kind of nice to have the bow, but you know, it's not a huge deal with Tempered.
Nah, and I know Zelga can do the damage boost speedrun strats for Vitreous.
It's just a little bit nice for the last phase to have just clean up with 8 arrows. Because I believe the arrows do end up doing more damage than Tempered Sword spins or slashes would.
I think it's...
Vitreous has an obnoxious amount of health if you're using a sword.
Yeah, I think it's 1 arrow is the same as 1 tempered spin, but don't quote me on that. Because like you said, that amount of health is just obscene, and why does he have it? Why can he tank 2 silver arrows?
I just remember the first time I was doing that, you know, with out of you know, sequence broken items when I was playing Rando early on, and I was just, how does this boss still take this many hits when I've got every sword upgrade in the entire game? Like, I'm not even supposed to ever have this sword for this boss, but he still just won't die. Zelga forcing Lanmos to die, though. Very nicely done there. I blinked and I missed it.
Yep. Fire Rod is a lot of people's favorite weapon to kill Landmos with, even over the silver arrows, just because it's a lot more consistent, it doesn't lag, and it's pretty fast.
Yeah, it's 2 Fire Rod shots for each one versus 1 Silver Arrow. Silver Arrows is a little faster if done optimally, but it's a much smaller window. It's less forgiving. You really got to time it right, because if you miss your window, it's hard to get another shot in.
And Zelga says no to the gold sword.
Not surprising. At that's a check that it's like, okay, yeah, you know, you could pick it up, but once you're sort of confident enough in your game, it's like, I'm not even going to bother taking that time loss because the gold sword isn't going to save me enough time.
Is fluting back to 6 from Checkerboard Cave faster than just walking?
If you don't have the flippers,
Oh,
I would
wait.
imagine.
Chat just reminded me the reason he did this. He wanted to set up spooky action.
Oh yeah, spooky action too. I think it is still faster without the flippers though, because coming from that direction, you kind of have to go a roundabout way if you can't swim.
Yeah.
Seeing Teto just sort of, not sure about that gold sword, decides not to take it.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is that even if Zelga had a spooky setup when he went into desert, he lost that when he lamped the torches before Lamolas.
Yeah, so spooky is not a very self-explanatory glitch. But basically, you know, all of these old games from the 90s, they were dealing with very limited memory because they were on cartridge space, right? So there are a lot of addresses in memory that are repurposed and reused for different things at different times, you know, depending on what's needed where. And it turns out that the variable for the position on screen for the bird is linked to, I'm not entirely sure, but it has something to do with, you know, where the fire rod shows up. Nice Godmire. We'll see if Zelga runs with that or decides to full clear it. But basically, it offsets the position of your fire rod shots, so you can activate certain switches in the basement without entering the room that they're in, which is very convenient.
Yeah, its biggest time save application is obviously in the back of Misery Mire to interact with crystal switches, but a very fun / frustrating way to use it is actually in Ice Palace, both in the first room where you can save a few frames on the Freezor and against Cold Stare. I think a lot of people have had really questionable Fire Rod interactions with Cold Stare, like even just playing casually, and never really understood why, even though it's the exact same concept as Spooky. So here could be one of the big decision points of the race. Teto does see that that Turtle Rock Medallion is Bombos, but is opting not to go in.
I would imagine we're seeing an Ether Tablet check first, because if that's Ice Rod, you definitely want to go into Turtle Rock right now. Nope, no Ether Tablet right just yet. Okay, yeah, Spike Cave first. That makes sense. Because if you're gonna pick one thing to do, you want to do Spike Cave, because it's, again, hard to come back to.
Although this does sort of signal to me that he's probably not choosing Turtle Rock.
Yeah, at this point, there's enough else.
Oh, he's walking out using that potion. Oh, or he just
using the magic refill. Doesn't want to be low on magic later on.
I guess.
I know. I've done Spike Cave enough times, and really regretted being low on magic later. Perhaps planning on going to Ice Palace, fake flippering over there.
Oh yeah, if he's okay. Yes, okay, you're right. This makes perfect sense now.
I know enough times I've ended up thinking, oh man, if only I hadn't just done Spike Cave here.
Yeah, and the fake flipper to Ice Palace play honestly wasn't really even on my mind. But if the Ice Rod's in here, then this is brilliant from Teto.
Yeah, especially if we've got Turtle Rock flips, which is looking more and more likely as we go on, because we've already cleared out Pod. The really, probably the worst case scenario for Zelga at this point is flips on Armos Knights.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of locations besides Turtle Rock, Armos Knight's Green Pendant, where those flips could still be, and I'm not really coming up with any.
You see, because that Eastern being the Green Pendant makes that Armos Knight's play, it bumps up the priority of that a little bit for Teto with the bow in hand. Whereas it's not going to really be on Zelga's radar without a bow, since it's impossible.
Really clean, no pause buffer icebreaker there from Teto to get in there and get that chest. And that makes full clearing this dungeon so nice.
For sure. I think sort of the something that I've never or rarely hear mentioned when people are talking about Icebreaker is whether or not you decide to flip the switch before doing it. And the way it was explained to me is essentially if you're going to be clearing out all the chests in the dungeon, it doesn't really matter if you flip it. Because what flipping it does is it sort of puts in the other state. Ooh, and there's the other bow in Misery Mire on Zelga's side. So that's a pretty big game changer. I'm not sure Tato's going to be picking that up.
No, not with Godmire.
Yeah, so it looks like unless something weird happens, this is going to be the only bow each runner has, and they're completely different bows. So that's interesting, just on its own.
Here's some food for thought, though. Ice Rod on Mothulix. There is, I believe, one item still in the back of Skull Woods.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to lead to the bow, though.
Not for Zelga, probably, but I'm just trying to think. At this point, when does either of these runners get to that?
Yeah, man, that's an interesting development. I'm not sure how relevant it's going to be. It certainly bails Zelga out a lot.
Yeah, like
now that Zelga has that safety of having found that other bow.
If it can save him the trip to Skull Woods entirely, then all he's really lost is the efficiency of being able to clear Palace of Darkness in one go.
Yeah, and he's, quick gonna knock that out here.
Anyways, I would like to revisit the flipping the switch for Icebreaker that you were mentioning earlier.
So as you see right here, it's in the default state it would normally be in when you do the dungeon this way. And what that means is it requires you to have that necessary big key and small key to get through. If you flip it at the beginning, it's a little extra time up front, but it puts it in the other state so that you can clear it just by pushing the block without the Cane of Samaria, which is faster in terms of total time, but it's a little harder to check all of the chests. So that's sort of what you want to do if you don't have any need to find any items in there.
Right. It's basically a division between go mode or full clear. If you're intent on full clearing the dungeon, like if you know you're going to, if you still need multiple items, as that was an amazing cold stare fight from Teto, keeping him right in the corner. And getting the third shield.
Not going to be skipping that shield today. But yeah, again, it's one of those strategies similar to the skipping lava chest in Turtle Rock that people will do. If you're in go mode and you've seen the big key, you skip the lava chest and steal the key because the most valuable thing it could be is another small key. So it's, again, just choosing when you are sort of allowed to save time.
Yeah, and it's basically choosing the guaranteed knowing that you can go without having to open any chests, compared to if the big key and a small key are in your way, you're saving time from not flipping that switch, but you're losing time and a lot of it if they're not.
Yeah. We're seeing Teto go right here into Mire. So if Teto decides to poke around for the flippers or ice rod in here, then Teto might be picking up those silvers.
Yeah, and actually, I guess with that Ice Rod not being in Ice Palace, like I thought it might have been, I do expect that he'll find those arrows, because Ice Rod, you're playing a very dangerous game if you leave a dungeon only partially cleared.
Especially, I didn't notice if we had an item in cutscene chest. But with a Godmire, it's pretty common to go and clear out at least everything other than cutscene chest. Just because you can get it done pretty quickly and know that cutscene chest is probably not going to be looming over you. It's a decent gamble to take.
Yeah, if I remember what Zelga did correctly, he got the big key. He went to the left side, did the north chest, got an item out of there, went straight to Vidi.
Well, then he found the bow in.
He went back in after killing Vitreous and got the bow on the right side. Because remember, he did not have that bow when he killed Vitreous, so he had to take out phase 2 with the sword spins.
And Tato's gonna be happy to see that if he does before he fights Vitreous there. Nope, he's going straight back. So he's gonna, I think what you want to do here, what the plan is here is find out, do we have an item on the boss? Because that can really help you sort of do cleanup afterwards. So I like this play.
I mean, the only item he's missing for go mode at this point is the ice rod, which it sort of sucks to say.
Well, no, not the flippers, because yeah,
we don't need
Swamp
the
Palace is a pendant. I remembered.
Yep. It does sort of suck to say go mode when you've got 6 crystals in hand, which is the situation Teto, actually Zelga too, will be in when they find the ice rod.
Yeah.
But when you're only 1 item from go mode, going straight to Vitreous is generally the highest value play for Misery Mire. As
I mean, it's like skipping left side swamp. You know, even with 2 items there, depending on what else you've got in the world to check yet. You know, if you're only looking for 1, it's kind of a calculated risk sort of thing.
Teto had a wonderful spooky glitch, except he didn't actually flip the switch on the left side before going straight back, so he kind of trapped himself. And then he missed all his shots in this room. Once he corrected that, now he's out of magic. So that was really unfortunate for Teto there. Because now he doesn't have magic to spooky off of the torch either.
The one thing that's really nice, actually, is the fact that we don't have those flippers. Because that means we don't even have to wonder, do we dip Independent Swamp for the ice rod? Which is a nice spot to be in. If we see those flippers, that's actually not great at this point for us.
I mean, if we see the flippers at this point, it's a pretty clear sign because we are very quickly running out of locations.
Yeah, it kind of raises the question, okay, do you dip into Swamp Palace just to find the ice rod? Or do you bank on it being in Turtle Rock? It's almost, you know, as close to even odds as you're gonna get, but it's kind of a Sophie's choice there.
I think at this point, I would personally be playing this seed under the assumption that I will find the flippers I will find one of the flippers or the ice rod in Turtle Rock. And if it turns out to be the flippers, you just have to keep going. And I think Teto is making the same choice here with 6 crystals in hand.
Yeah, and again, having gone through Pod, only the back of Skull Woods and the 2 items from clearing Eastern Palace in terms of dungeon dips.
Teto left 2 items in Misery Mire. He's taking this route up the mountain to check. He's taking this route up the mountain, which will let him check Ether Tablet. I would be quite surprised if he spent the time on Hera Basement after leaving 2 items in Mire, but that's an option too. He will be walking right by it.
Maybe. At that point, it's like, okay, do you spend the time to check Hera Basement only to waste it all and find the ice rod in Turtle Rock anyway? I would go straight to Turtle Rock here. It's a gamble, but you just hate to lose that much time to Hera Basement like that, because there's so much available. You know, Flippers unlocking Swamp. If Flippers shows up, any Flippers or Ice Rod showing up in Turtle Rock, which is not that unlikely, versus either one of those items being in that one incredibly long check. This is just the more attractive play.
Yeah, it's one of those things. The Hera Basement, if you played it and it paid off, would be borderline game winning in this race state, I think. But it just psychologically feels so bad to go for that check for the reasons you just laid out. But we do have Zelga. He's climbing the mountain the traditional way. He's headed for Turtle Rock as well. He will not get that heart container off the Ether Tablet.
Oh no, that's going to be big. 11 hearts versus 12. Whew, that's going to be... It's going to be a major difference in the end game here.
Yeah, and in just skimming across, it looks like both trackers are exactly the same across the board. The only difference being where each runner got their bow from. I think other than that, we're pretty much at parity.
Yeah, Teto with that slight lead. I at this point, it's looking like it's coming mostly from not checking that those 2 chests in Mire.
Oh,
Just no moting Mire saved most of this time.
That's sort of counterbalanced by the fact that he's been to Skull Woods when Zelga hasn't. I think actually largely what it comes down to is the efficiency of having to go back into Palace of Darkness a second time.
Now, here's a question. I've seen it done a number of times. In what situation does mirroring back from those 2 right side chests here in Turtle Rock save you time? Because just now Teto didn't mirror back, but I've seen a number of runners mirror out and just go from the entrance again.
That's a time safety trade-off. I don't think, unless you're doing some weird routing where you check the right side first, I don't think it ever saves you time. But it's always a lot safer, especially if you don't have like a cape or a Burna to get through those rollers without taking damage.
Yeah, I suppose I saw it a number of times, I think last week, which makes sense since it was co-op and those are generally run at lower percents. So you're not picking up all those extra heart containers and armors.
Yeah. Also, errors in chat saying that doing the right side first and then mirroring for left side is faster by a few seconds. I actually totally believe that, and I do that route myself when I play occasionally, and I have minimal idea why it's not the common one, aside from the inconsistency of having mirror and Turtle Rock. But yeah, I like that route a lot, and I would like to see more people pick up on it.
This is a spookily close race. At what point does the difference of where each of them found the bow come into play?
Honestly, at this point, I don't think it comes into play at all. They both have a bow. They're both not getting the other bow, barring some super weird ice rod placement. So,
yeah, it really would only matter much. The most interesting scenario here is if we go all the way through Turtle Rock and don't find anything else, ice rod or flippers. That would kind of be the most intriguing setup here.
Yeah, because then we're down basically to Armos and the Green Pendant turn in and Mothula, and I think we've collectively exhausted. Well, no, Terra Basement and Bombos Tablet are also available on top of that.
Right, and that's sort of gonna bring in a lot of, which it's kind of a toss up. Which one of those kind of inconvenient things do you check? It's kind of the thing that you route hoping doesn't happen. Like you route as if that's never going to happen.
And chat's also mentioning the Pyramid Fairy that I completely forgot about, which, yeah, that's a thing too. So we've got like, what is that, 7 locations. And then the other thing chat's also bringing up is the potential to take the safety door out of Laser Bridge and save your portal while ice rod hunting. If you don't save and quit, and you don't go to the Dark World, you can save that mirror portal. Yeah. You can jump down right to it. But
the problem with that is if we see flippers, then I would bet that we'd likely see one or both of these runners not even bother with that, given the likelihood that it's just in swamp anyway.
Right. But we're running out of checks here. If we don't see either one, that could at least be an influence on the immediate routing post Turtle Rock.
There's the flippers. Okay.
This seed sucks.
The good news for this seed, it could be worse. We could have needed the powder. It could be logically worse. Just in terms of what the logic is expecting you to do.
Yeah, but if it were logically worse, we'd both runners would have the ice rod at this point, so it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah, so it looks like Teto here is going to be saving the portal to start.
Nah, he's just going to swamp.
No, he's not. He's going to swamp, yeah. So going to swamp, you're creating another mirror portal, so you can't dive right back into the top. We're probably gonna see the same thing from Zelga, because it's like, you know, again, as we were mentioning before, for Teto, it's Swamp Palace, which is 6 chests, or, you know, 2 checks from Eastern, doing that whole dungeon, back of Skull Woods. With this, you can wrap in the Bombos medallion here, or Bombos tablet here too. So it's you just make the swamp play. Looks like Zilga's not doing that though.
Yeah, it looks like he's at least going to short-term save the portal. Go check the Ether tablet. Might check the Hera basement because it's right
having
there.
not done the Ether tablet does make a little more sense. Because now you've got 2 checks over there as opposed to just 1.
Yeah, and if he's playing this way, we could also see him go to Eastern Palace next.
Yeah. Though I'd see that more if you decide to just check the tablet. If he does Hera basement, he might cut his losses. Okay, yeah, so he's not doing Hera basement.
No, if it's just straight to swamp for him as well.
Yeah.
Just
Again, there's just too many things in swamp.
Yeah, he wanted to take that one long shot that would let him immediately save the portal and go back.
That's a really, really good play to make. That's sort of the trade-off of not doing Ether beforehand. If you do Ether beforehand, you and it's the Ice Rod, great. You don't have to double dip Turtle Rock at all. But if you skip it in the short term, you might save some time. But, you know, if it is Ice Rod, worst case scenario, you just dip back there, you lose like 60 seconds, to like 1 or 2 minutes maybe.
Yep. Yeah. But looking at this seed, realistically, it doesn't even have to be in swamp. I mean, it probably is, just playing the numbers, but we've got
let's see.
3 pendant.
How many things that aren't Swamp Palace do we have that it could be? It could be
4.
Green Pendant turn in, Eastern Palace boss, one check in the back of Skull Woods, Pedestal, Pyramid Fairy.
Oh yeah, 6.
If there's Hera basement. So
okay, so 7. I can't
technically,
count.
numerically, slightly more likely that it's not in swamp.
Of course, swamp is the density play. Like it's 6 items that are all fairly near each other, and you can do Pyramid Fairy immediately afterwards if it's not in here.
It's just so good at this stage with the checks that we have open right now.
Oh, there's some red mail.
It's not what Teto wanted to see there.
Teto is going straight to the back here. This is standard play. Although what would be really interesting to me is if somebody decided they wanted to make the big brain play and go left side first. You don't generally see that when you're only hunting for 1 item, but you're also generally not in swamp hunting for that 1 item when it's a pendant and you don't have to kill Argus.
Interesting, Teto not going for the diver down at all here. Usually you will see runners do the diver down there. Because, you know, it saves a couple screen transitions and you can get straight to these chests from it.
Yeah, these chests are, unfortunately, nothing of value.
And one of them is most notably the compass, which means that we've got something left side.
Okay, so this big key placement means that if the Ice Rod is in the big chest, the big brain left side first strat would not be the way to go. And yeah, just to recap for chat a little bit, we've seen every item in every crystal dungeon. I don't think Trinex is holding an item. We've seen every item except 1 on Armos, 1 in the back of Skull Woods, and I think 2 here in Swamp remain to be seen. And then we've got a couple of other cleanup locations like the Pyramid Fairy and the Ped.
Yeah, the most interesting difference here is that Teto has 2 checks in Misery Mire, and Zelga has 2 in Skull Woods. Zelga has checked both of the Misery Mire ones. Teto has checked 1 Skull Woods check. Each of them got a bow out of it, which is kind of some nice serendipity there.
And chat's asking, the 1 item on Armos does not include the green pendant, so it's really 2 on Armos, although the boss will only drop 1. But the point is, we have seen most of the dungeons here. We've seen most of every dungeon. And yeah, whoever finds Ice Rod first is leading.
Yeah, I think we're seeing Zelga here doing that left side first play. So Zelga's the first one to show us this left side. There's the Cane of Burna. Doesn't help us at this point. Spike Cave has already been checked. All right, so if it's in Swamp, there it is, the Ice Rod. It was in the chest. So as you mentioned, doing left side first was not the play because you needed the big key.
Yep. And now, will Zelga double back after he gets the big key, or will he kill Argus and come back in?
I say you keep going.
Realistically, yes. It's just a really crappy choice either way.
Did we see the map in the beginning, or was map on Argus?
Pretty sure it's on Argus.
Okay, well, Zelga will know that. In which case, we might see Zelga back out, because Zelga will know that.
Oh, why will he know it's on Argus and not in the big chest?
Well, I guess so. I guess.
Like, it's a 50-50 in the truest sense. And it's a really long and crappy one.
I forgot that Zelga doesn't know everything. I know.
Chat saying Argus has an item, so I'm just silly, ignore me, etc. I completely missed that, forgot that, whatever.
Yeah, so yeah, you definitely keep going here.
Yeah, because the backtrack and then the double back, if it's not in the big chest, is crippling.
So yeah, it's a razor thin lead right now, but Teto firmly has the advantage here, having found that Ice Rod first. Just again, it's the infamous left side swamp. Do you do it? Do you skip it? Zelga decided to go for it. If it had been left side, Zelga would have the lead. If it wasn't, so now Teto has it. That's just how it goes, and that's why it's such an infamous set of checks.
Yeah, and that's how the randomizer works. Just check all the places that have items, and you win. But you don't have that information. You can't do that.
I am especially thankful that we didn't see either runner pick up the silver arrows. Just because that would be such a huge factor at this point if one of them had the silver arrows, that it would just be.
That would be about 30 seconds worth of time, I think, assuming both of these runners do their Ganon fights properly.
Yeah, I suppose with tempered sword silvers. I've seen a lot of Master Sword silvers lately, so that's sort of where my mind was going.
Yeah, regardless, this is a pretty solid advantage for Teto here, because Zelga has to get his Ice Rod, he's got to climb the mountain, and he's got to go through this pretty much the entirety of Turtle Rock that Teto has already backtracked his way through. It'll be a very fast backtrack of Turtle Rock, but he's still going to have to do it.
Yeah, either way, Zelga's happy to see that Ice Rod there. So that means that there are a lot of places that no longer have to be looked at.
Also means we're not leaving Death Mountain until we've killed an Aghanim for the rest of the seed, which is pretty nice. Oh, that Dead Rock was actually okay. I'm sorry I said anything. That first Dead Rock was great, though.
Yeah, that's one of the areas where sometimes it's perfect and sometimes it's just awful. But yeah, Teto heading in here to Turtle Rock, or the infamous turtle of Turtle Rock, Trinex.
The only turtle in Turtle Rock. And letting Quickswap get a little bit ahead of himself there, unfortunately. But can make up for it. Gonna get
does
2
have
cycles.
yeah 2 cycle here.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but quick swap being allowed for non-entrants is a fairly new thing. I think this season of the league is the first major event that's allowing it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you'd think it's just like, oh, that's just gonna save so much time because you don't have to menu, but it really is a skill that you have to kind of get used to. And if you're new versus if you've played a lot of entrance randomizer and you're really used to using it all the time, like oh, I have these items, I know exactly how many times I need to scroll.
Yeah.
A couple little quirks, like each bottle is counted separately, so you got to be paying attention to how many you have. Once you get used to it, it's really handy to have, but there is an adjustment period that a lot of the people that are... I've even seen a lot of runners just using the menu just out of habit.
Yeah, I am familiar with that myself. Anyway.
And there are a couple places where, oh, we've got our Ganon's Tower guessing game.
Yep, chat's already doing it. They know what to do. They're guessing the numbers.
Good, because I totally dropped the ball on that one.
Nah, chat knows how to play their game. They love it. So
it's going to be ending very soon.
Yep. So chat's competing for their internet points. The winner gets 19 Who's Line points.
No, I won't be getting any because I missed it. That's all right. I don't need internet points anyway. That's number 1, 300 rupees. Number 2. So it's a fairly quick guessing game.
Yeah, and our tracker Duodeca is the one that won it. He guessed 2, and the big key was 2.
Ooh,
congratulations
nice.
on your internet
torch
points.
Too.
Yeah,
this is
almost
a dream Ganon's Tower.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
even if you go Dark Magician, it's not terrible. Dark Magician is slightly worse than going Hope Room, but you know, Dark Magician, you have the key already that you're gonna need. So
yeah, you just lose the time
that
office.
GT Basement, let's just say GT Basement is not going to be the difference maker in this seed.
Yeah.
Zelga can't hope to make up that much time here. Going for a faster Trinix kill, though. That might make up some time here. Ooh, misses the 0 cycle. That was very close.
I don't think it's possible to 0 cycle with Tempered Sword.
Oh, yeah, Tempered Sword. Yeah, you can't do it with Tempered Sword, but... I digress. That was very clean.
It was definitely clean. Anyways, as Teto gets ready to enter the gauntlet here and Zelga gets his 7th crystal, I do want to give a shout out to our tracker. Duo pressing the buttons, keeping everybody informed, and helping us bring you this close race. Of course, I do think at this point it would take a mistake from Teto to close the gap that's sort of started to open up here a little bit.
Yeah, this has just been so even in terms of even the routes they took. There was a little bit of divergence where Teto checked Skull Woods early, found the bow dipped out, and Zelga not doing that, but all of the route divergences just sort of got bailed out by the seed, honestly.
Yeah, and it ultimately, Teto's out of magic. He's gonna have to rely on spins or use that potion. But okay, here we go. Yeah, he'll have the land mows down in a sec here.
Yeah, you want to have magic for the next couple rooms, so you can use the Cane of Samaria to cleanly kill those Wizrobes.
Yep. And then you've got torches after that. Yeah, I'm trying.
Very rare to see that one.
Yeah, that was a bit unlucky.
It happened. It happens to the best of us. You're never expecting it. Usually, you just press the boots button and it just goes like that.
Yeah, but sometimes enemy movement does weird RNG things, and your sword tanks, and you get hit, and it sucks. Yeah, ultimately, I think a lot of what this time difference is coming down to here is the Swamp Palace routing. Like, I think Teto was...
Swamp Palace routing was a big thing.
Because Teto was slightly in the lead coming out of Turtle Rock, but then Zelga played the left side swamp over the back of Swamp Gamble, and that opened it up to what we see now. Teto missing his bomb, though. That's a bit... You hate to see that one, too.
Yeah, so Teto was a little bit ahead, I think, largely off of, being the first one into Turtle Rock. I think... Let's see, Teto did the Ether Tablet check first, so Zelga lost a little bit of time to that.
And ultimately, I think the biggest thing that we can cite around that, I mean, there's numerous things you can point out, but Teto finding his bow significantly earlier let him do Palace of Darkness in one go, where Zelga had to go back with a bow he got later to clean it up.
Interesting that Teto didn't open that post-Moldarm chest. Neither of these runners know where the other bow is. So he did a lap around it, but he didn't open it up.
Yeah, he's just taking his victory lap, man.
I mean, I get that, but I'd open it up for the silvers.
I do know Teto is good enough at this game that he is supremely confident in his silverless game.
Oh yeah, for sure. So. What I mean,
silvers they would save him a few seconds here and there. Probably not as much as he could have lost on this Aga 2 fight if it went poorly, but it went well.
And Teto finishes off Aga 2 and is going to drop down into the Ganon fight. Pretty standard loadout here. Tempered Sword, Silverless, Red Mail. So not going to be too worried about dying here. It's just going to be sort of a very classic speedrun here.
Yep. As usual, the thing to keep an eye on, can he get the 1 cycles on these first 2 phases? Gets the Triton spin, nice. So should be pretty well set, I think. Or not, misses, like he took that hit and he missed a slash there, so he's going to have to do a 2 cycle here. Or I guess, does that count as 1 cycle? Yeah, let's count it. Or wait, no, he threw the Trident twice.
Yeah, he definitely threw the Trident twice.
I completely blanked that like 6 seconds out of my mind. But still.
That was a really good Ganon placement for that second cycle, though.
Yeah. Nobody's going to cry about a 2-in-1 Ganon. That's all I'm going to say.
It can matter in a really close race. I mean, this is already a fairly close race, but sometimes if it's down to a hair, sometimes that can matter, and I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
So, at this point, though, the racer's mentality is it's like I'm just finishing. I'm not going to psych myself out about anything that I may hit or may miss. You just get it done at this point. If you've lost the race, you've lost it already. You just do it.
Just play the game, clean it up. And both of these guys have done these fights enough that they're not going to struggle significantly with it. And Teto switching over to the Fire Rod here. That will let him get 3 spins in 1 torch cycle, just like that. Now it's going to go out. He'll light it. Did not get the spin there. Not sure he needs it, though. I haven't been counting closely. Okay. Would have liked it, I suppose. But yeah, being able to get those 3 spins in 1 torch cycle with the Fire Rod there is probably bigger to the silverless speedrun fight than the 1 cycles on the first 2 phases. Because it saves you magic and it's just fast. But that is Teto crossing the finish line. First place with a time of 1 hour, 32 minutes, 29 seconds. So GG's to him.
Yeah, and so this race was decided by about the duration of 2 phases of Ganon, honestly. Maybe 3. That's spooky close. That's a close race.
Yeah, like definitely well played by both runners here. Just the way that the ice rod hunt played out and the bow hunt before it, Teto got the slight edge on that front. And that let him come out on top.
And I mean, this was about as just, you know, lockstep as you can get for an entire seed. Like a little bit of trading places here and there, but it was, you know, all of the world progression was early. The one access item that, I guess there were two access items that didn't really show up right away, the flute and the flippers. Those were gotten slightly out of order, but, you know, this seed was really just the story of, you know, just make the right sensible calls at the right time, you know? Just go for what the sensible option is going to be. No huge brain plays required to lock this seed down. Just a pretty standard seed, which makes for a really exciting race when you get races of this caliber.
Yep. It did turn into a full clear with that ice rod and bow hunt, but that's rando. That happens. And there's Zelga. That's his last spin on Ganon. Just gonna have to cross the bridge here and he'll be done as well.
And that will give Zelga an official racetime.gg time of 1 hour, 34 minutes, and 41 seconds. So a scant 2 minutes and 10 seconds, roughly, behind, if my math is correct, which it often isn't, but I think it's right this time.
Yep. Within the margin of error, at any rate.
My margin of error is quite large. I'm very forgiving to myself.
So we'll see if we get these runners in here if they want to talk about the seed a bit. Not sure if they do.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the seed was nothing spectacular, nothing that you're really like, oh man, that was there. I mean, the flippers in Turtle Rock was a bit like, oh come on, but it's not something where you feel like your opponent's gonna be like, oh man, like I wonder if somebody big-brained flippers in Laser Bridge. You know, you're just rolling your eyes at the seed at that point.
And we do have Teto with us here, so GG's, congratulations.
Yeah, greetings, GG, yeah, thanks. Oh man, what a game.
Yeah, it was definitely an entertaining one from the start. You guys were playing it real close the whole way through.
Yeah, but feeling midway through the seed, it was like so many mini major mistakes and everything just went wrong somehow. Going to port without enough money and realizing it just 10 meters before getting there, and I was like, oh yeah, against Zelga, this is going pretty rough now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, both of you guys were kind of in lockstep the whole time. I can't recall if Zelga made any overt blunders like you know, forgetting about the money for Kiki, which we've all done from time to time, but you know, it was if there was a lead at any point, it was really hard to make out for probably 80% of that race.
Yeah, and we do have Zelga in here with us, so GG's.
Yeah, GG. This was a race. Typical ice rod hunt. Good stuff.
Yeah.
GG's Zelga.
Ice rod hunt, and the other big story was probably the bows. I think you guys discussed it already in the race time chat, but one of you got one bow, the other one got the other, and yeah.
Yeah. When I got down to finding the flute, which I knew had to be my Death Mountain access, I only had Skullwoods or Pod. And you go for the density, which means I missed the bow. Which, yeah, obviously the double dip of Pod and doing left side swamp, those two things combined are more than enough time difference here. So it kind of is what it is.
Yeah, Meyer did kind of bail that out a little bit, though. We were sort of having a discussion on comms that every time it looked like something happened on one player's screen that looked like bad news for the other, you know, an item would show up that's like, okay, well, that bails them out a little bit then.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
really
it was
was.
down to the wooding, going from Hype Cave towards Thieves Town. Don't find anything on the way there. So yeah, the early Skywoods dip. I understand. I think Zelga, you did it the opposite way. starting from the north?
No, I also did Hype Cave up, but after
Ah.
down, I finished off the Smith Chain. So then
Yeah.
that way I could do like Purple Chest. I mean, I could do Bumper Cave, Graveyard Ledge. And in that process, I just skipped Skullwoods entirely.
Yeah, you went to Dark Death Mountain instead. You got your Fire Rod, your Bombos, but Teto got a bow.
Yeah, it is what it is. I don't feel too bad about it. I feel like this was a pretty competitive race. I knew it was going to be a tough race going in, so there's no shame here.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing really to feel bad about on either side of this race. Both of you guys played really well the whole way through. It was close.
Yeah, the biggest
Randomizer be
difference maker at the
randomizer.
end was the swamp routing. Just left side versus no left side, the eternal question.
Yeah, I'm not down for diver downs, so I just went to the back, and if I have to go in again, I'll have to do it the old school way anyway, so yeah.
I'm a bit sad though because
Man after my own heart. I don't do the diver down either.
as you guys were going into Swamp Palace, I was talking up the potential for a left side first play because it was a pendant dungeon. But
yeah, I was probably going to the back until I got I think it was the map in the very first chest, at which point I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to do the left side. That was kind of the deciding factor for me, was getting that.
Yeah, and then the big key was just in the least friendly place possible for...
Waterfall chest, yeah.
Yeah.
I think at this point, nobody just turned back this one check.
Yeah, especially not with both the map and the compass having already reared their ugly
Yeah,
heads.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah.
I may as well just check the boss first. If that's the ice rod, then, you know, you're out of there. But yeah, it was a good seed. GT Big Key, 2 out of 22. Always nice to see that after that ice rod hunt.
Yeah, no weird GT voting at this point. Yeah, because I really just fell behind nearly the whole seat after all these little mistakes. And yeah, the lucky bow placement, you don't think about this in this point. You are just like, well, if the ice ward is in Maya and it's like a god Maya right now, just go for it and skip it. Zelga will finish in like 10 minutes if there was the ice ward somewhere. And after this, just going for the weirdest places, no portal saves on the turtle walk, so straight into swamp as well.
Yeah, I felt actually pretty okay after I found the ice rod, because I also did immediately swamp. But I actually said out loud as I was climbing the mountain again, I was like, you know, if the other bow is in Skull Woods, I do probably still lose this. But otherwise, I feel pretty good. And yeah, that's exactly what happened.
This is normal Wendo seed somehow. Yeah, normal Wendo ways.
Yeah. Anyways, I do want to say for the league of it, this does take both of your teams to 1 win, 2 losses on this season. I think I saw that you guys have game 2 on Saturday, although it's not neither of you playing it.
Yeah, it's Alex Hex versus Dr. Marty.
Should be pretty good. That's going to be, I think that's sometime Saturday morning, so people should check that out too. I guess anything that either of you guys want to say on that front in advance of that game, even though it's still a few days away?
Not really. Got plenty of confidence in Marty to back me up after my loss here, so just looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think Alex Hex is now going with free mind into this game. We just scored in the league, so we are not going out 0-14, and now we can surprise everyone.
I like it. I was on a team last season that had a shot at going pretty low score, but we pulled a few out. So I understand where that sort of mentality is coming from, and I'm looking forward to seeing some plays out of your team going forward. We've got some good ones tonight, so.
Yeah, if nobody else has anything to say, I think we're just about ready to wrap things up here. Just as a quick note, make sure you give both of these racers a follow. As you can see, you know, they've put in the time. They've ground up their skills that Teto can beat himself up over all his major mistakes, even though he still finished with a time that I'm envious of. So you know, give him a follow. Shout outs to our tracker, Duodeca. And shout outs to my co-commentator Reg. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. I've been happy to do this match with you. Got to bring a good one to all the viewers out there, and I think if anybody's got any last words, now would be the time for them.
Just GG's. Thanks for having us on the restream and doing the commentary, the tracking. Really appreciate it. And good luck going forward every day but Saturday.
Yeah, so yeah, GG's and Zeg again. It was a pleasure to play against you, and thanks for the restream at this point. And we will see Saturday. It's going to be a close race as well, so looking forward.
All right, with that, I think that'll be it. We've got a couple more races going on tonight. Not on this channel, but on SpeedGaming. We've got a double header here with Bomb Squad versus the Komodo Hypers at 8:10 Eastern and 10:10 Eastern. So be sure to tune into that if you've got the time. And I think that's gonna do it for me.
Yep. We've also got Team Operation Get Good versus Error 216 on Speed Gaming 4 starting in about an hour and 15 minutes. So if you want to check that one out instead or in addition to the doubleheader, then that's going to be a pretty good one too. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for us. I've been Reg, my partner's been Esmar, and we'll see you over some other race.